I'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for the Quantum Thinking Sales Bootcamp training. And in the advanced training that we're doing here, there's different ways to do sales training. And so there's structured training. You go through a lesson, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. There's advantages to doing that. And then there's, open training, which is what we're doing here. And there's advantages to doing that. And so let's dive right in. Kenny, what you got?
So yesterday I had a meeting with all the guys, like just after the job. This is what I saw, this is what I'd like to work on, this is what we need to improve on. And I didn't know if there's like the best way to address those situations or bring up those situations, talk about those situations so where it's not, I don't not to kind of bash them or knock them down. It's like, hey, this is what we need to do, and these are some things that we need to work on.
So, so Jason, my son-in-law, he owns his own, accounting firm. He's in his 30s, I think mid 30s ish, early 30s. And I'm pretty direct, I'm pretty direct with him. Um, and so he's going to be, he's going to be an amiable analytic. I'm going to be a driver analytic. And so I don't know. I knew him for a number of years. This just happened probably a year ago. So I'd known him for probably over 8, 9, 10 years. And I said, Jason, you know that when I'm like hard on you, and again, I don't think I'm hard on him, but he's gonna think I'm hard on him because he's an amiable. And so I said, you do know when I'm hard on you is because I care for you, right? And he's like, really? Like it seemed like based on his response, he'd never thought of that option. He had never considered that as a possibility. And so different personalities have a totally different view of life. And so if you go ahead and in your life GPS training, you have one video, that's good. It's a good start on vision. But there's all these other things, that people need to learn. And so, Kenny, I've been mentoring you for over 4 years, I think it's been now. And so you think about all the things you've learned in 4 years. Do you want is there anything that you wouldn't want that I've mentored you in that you wouldn't want your team to have? Probably you'd want them all to have 4 years of experience like you did. But probably I'm not going to go on a 1 week vacation with them. I'm not going to spend the time, that I spent with you, especially the first 2 years.
Right.
So how do you go ahead and take that 4 years and crunch that down in, condense that down in to what, how, how to do it? So the culture, you have to build a culture of that because you're going to have different personalities and they're going to think, that you're being hard on them or whatever, unless you train them otherwise, especially the analytic, the amiable, and the expressive. They'll think it's personal. Like with Elise, who I've worked with for over 10 years, when people ask her, how do you, like, you've never had issues with Mark. You just don't. How is that possible? And she's like, just don't ever take anything he says personally. It's never against you. It's never saying you're a bad person. So I think there's so much insecurity in the world today that people are defensive. They're not, they're like everything is a personal affront. And that's where, you guys can tap into what the synergy is doing and being a great team member. And so, so you go ahead and have claim unclaimed territory and, internalization and, there's all these natural laws and it's embedded in here. It's like what my grandfather taught me when I was 8 years old. So they have to be taught. You're not born with the understanding that when somebody says something to you, there's some amount of truth to it. It could be 1% or 99%. It's up to you to decide what that is. So my grandfather taught me that at 8. Now, he only said it once to me. So I guess I was an attentive 8-year-old boy, or maybe it's because my grandpa died when I was 9. I don't know. I'm not sure why I picked it up, but adults have a hard time internalizing that. Like, you don't want to take things personally. You don't want to get defensive. You don't want to explain why you did this. You just want to receive it and then change and grow. Like you want to grow. So if you don't build that into your onboarding system, if they don't go through that, they're not going to know it. And you're going to like, they might go ahead. That's a 3-minute lesson that saved hundreds, if not thousands of hours of time. So they have to be trained, but then they have to internalize it. They have to say, this isn't personal. So what I found as an adult growing up, so my grandfather said, Mark, there's some amount, of truth. It's not up to them to tell you what percentage. This is 27% true about you. No, it's you get to decide, is it 1% or 99% or something in between? And then you get to decide, Mark, what you're going to do with it. It's your decision. You're going to live with your decisions the rest of your life. So you have to teach that. And then they have to internalize that. They have to take that and apply that. And the older we are, the harder it is because our brain gets synapses. And so we go down a path and we think this certain way. And often our parents thought that way, and our grandparents thought that way. And there's some things that our parents and grandparents and great grandparents thought that are very, very good, like really good. And then there's some things that probably likely are not so good, but those will be passed down from generation to generation. And so when you guys were talking in the pre-show, you knew that you had trained Kevin in, how to go ahead and do something specific. But there's hundreds of those types of things. This system here, along with the reflections, along with the chats where you're going back and forth. So Katrina, she doesn't mind me, sharing. Like, here's what she. So when I went through hers yesterday, she flew through it. She went through and, she went through and did all of them. She got all up. And the first 3, 4, 5, the first 3, 4, 5 reflections were really good. Now she didn't have action, so she needs to do that. But I didn't catch that right away. And then I noticed after 3, 4, 5 that the quality of the reflection, was less and less. And I haven't gotten through all of them. So what I did is I put a chat on there, and it's like, and so I don't blame her. I blame me for not keeping up with it. I should have kept up with it so she knew somebody's watching this, and other people, all future generations, are going to come in and use her as an example and see that. And so you got to go ahead and communicate a lot. And one of the things she's working on growing is her communication skills. So that's one of the things. Take an extra few minutes. Like, what's better communication? To go ahead and say, can you do a job on the river? Can you do a small job on the river? Well, okay, that's communication. Is that good communication? As soon as I heard that, I'm like, yeah, that's not good communication. And then, there was a response, and the response was, what do you mean by a small job? Well, why didn't the sender of that message know that? I knew that when I heard it. I'm like, your small job, my small job, I don't know what that is. And you can do a big job if you know how to do a big job. If you know how to do a big job, it's easy. If you don't know how to do a small job, it's hard. I mean, so you have to define, well, it's a bathroom or whatever it was. And so that took extra time on the sender's part and on the receiver's part. So did the sender go ahead, and as soon as that happened, he was asked, did he go, dang, I'm not a good, like, why didn't I go ahead? Can you do a small job on the river that's a bathroom? I mean, so did he learn that lesson? Say, I have got to be better at communication so people aren't coming back and say, what do you mean? So a lot packed into this short period of time. Great question, Kenny. Um, Luke, what you got?
Um, so what I am kind of running into now is storm damage, and I don't like. Haven't had a few situations where now people we don't want to pay more than what we get minus our deductible, and like I feel, kind of, I don't know, like they
Okay, so what
not
you're
really.
doing, I would recommend you do, rather than fight against human nature and say this is just human nature, do you have three options when you go ahead and sell?
Yes, we have multiple options, but more often than not, our bottom option comes out to right at the deductible or at the what insurance comes in at. And then people like we don't want to pay our out of our own pocket, so we only want to pay for a roof what we
Okay,
insurance gave us minus our deductible.
can you go ahead and can you bring that lowest option down to what they want? Is that possible?
Yes,
So they're happy with the
yes,
lowest. And so, okay, so here's an option. We can do what you want. Our concern in doing that is that you're going to get, a 20-year screw rather than a 40-year screw. You're not going to be you're going to live with this roof for the rest of your life. And we want to make sure that you're happy with it. So that's where sales comes in. See, lazy salespeople who are not really salespeople, they're really order takers. And so what they do is it's like a checkout. I don't want to sell anything. I don't want to work. I don't want to listen. I don't want to communicate. I don't want to ask questions. I don't want to try to sell up. I just want you to say yes to me. Well, go be a clerk at a store. Nothing wrong with that. But you're not a salesperson. You're an order taker. You're a checkout. A salesperson, their job, sales doesn't start until you get a no. Like people who are not trained in high level sales, they go ahead and when they get a no, they get discouraged. High level salespeople, when somebody sets a no, that's when sales start. There's something like there's testosterone, there's dopamine that kicks in, and you're like, when I go ahead and get a no, that's when my job starts. Or I get so good, I know where the no's are coming before they come, and I address them before they come, and they go ahead and actually say yes. Because no, like Tom Kuhn says, when somebody says their top salesperson actually says, he says, when somebody says no, he says, that's interesting, ma'am, sir. When you say no, you're maybe thinking no, like no, I'm not going to afford. What I hear you saying is KNOW. You don't know what I knew. If you knew what I knew, you'd be saying yes. So I've done a poor job in communication. So can I ask you some additional questions? So that's going from here to presenting solutions, and then why prospects are lost. So that there's between here, when you're presenting the solution and they say no, why do they say no? Often it's because we haven't done a good examination. We go back and ask them additional questions. Why are you saying no? And so, in communication and consideration of team members, like if somebody said, I don't want to work with Kenny, well, obviously there's something there. So, obviously, this is common sense. Like if I'm working with Kenny and somebody says, I don't want to work with Kenny, I'm going to say, what? Like, that's okay. Yeah.
was
Why? Why don't you want to work with Kenny? So I'm going to have like it's common sense. Being a good team member is going to be like, well, maybe there's a legitimate reason. Maybe there's not. Don't know until I find out why. And then when I go ahead and say why, I'm going to probably ask some more questions. But again, if I don't have the common sense to ask that, well, then I might not. So, and then obviously, either the customer or, Kenny's off, one of those two, or a combination of both. Am I not going to tell Kenny, about that conversation? No, that's just stupid. And I just have one rule, one boundary with people: don't be stupid. It's just stupid. It's like, how's Kenny going to grow if he doesn't know what people are thinking and saying? And maybe I could have done a better job. Maybe I should have defended him or said something or whatever. Minimum, he's going to grow from it. So again, what I'm finding about people is sometimes people don't have common sense. It's like, dang, not very smart. Katrina, what you got?
Is there any way, like, if you are talking with a person, like, let's say for the first time and you don't know the person, but is there any way to, like, kind of tell which personality they have just by, like, talking to them?
Yeah, I can train you in how to do that as long as you promise that you typically don't do that. See, the challenge is with lazy people, Katrina, you're not, from what I've seen. But the challenge with lazy people is they're always trying to game the system. They're like, well, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll do that rather than follow the system. I'm not going to ask them these shapes, like which of these four shapes or which of these four things. I'm just going to find out. I'm just going to identify somebody's personality without doing this work. So you can actually tell somebody's personality ish based on how they say hello on the phone. But you don't, that's not a substitute. That's not a substitute. You don't do that instead of asking these questions. You do both. So this is how you do it. How they say hello on the phone. If they say hello really fast, which of the four personalities, or which of the two, like there's two personalities that'll be fast. Which are the two? Anybody?
Driver expressive.
Driver expressive is going to be faster because the horizontal line is measuring assertiveness. How fast is somebody? So the driver, the pyramid and the wavy line, out of control, boring or not fun, they're going to be faster. The ones who are slower are going to be analytic and amiable. So they're out of order or conflict with others. These are going to be slower. If they say hello fast, they're probably going to be driver or expressive. Then that's the first question. Are they more assertive or are they less assertive? And if you're not sure if somebody's more assertive or less assertive, typically, where are they?
Less.
Less assertive.
Because more assertive people, they're more assertive. Now, if you're not sure, they're probably somewhere in the middle. So they're probably middle left. So they're analytic, driver, amiable, expressive, or something. So they're not way over to the left. The second question you're asking is, are they focused on the task? Are they focused on the people? It's a little harder to know that, but 75% of men roughly will be driver analytic, and 25% of women, 75% of women are going to be expressive, amiable, 25% of men. You can kind of tell male, female, but it's not, you don't know until you ask. And so if they're more task, if they're going to be more task. So what you do is you listen to their tone. And so if they're more task, that's upper, that's the analytic driver. If they're more people, they're going to be amiable or expressive. If somebody's going to be less assertive and more people, what personality are they?
Amiable.
Amiable. If they're less assertive and focus more on the task, which personality?
Analytic.
And if they're more assertive, focused on the people, what are they?
Expressive.
And if they're more assertive, focused on the task, what are they?
Driver.
And so So in the tone, in the voice, what you're doing is you're listening. So the amiable is going to be slower in how they say hello, and they're going to be nice to you. Amiable. If they're slower and it sounds like an outline format, like they just say hello perfectly, they're probably going to be analytic. If they're more assertive and if they say hello and they're laughing in the back, there's laughter in the background, they're laughing, they're joking, they're probably going to be expressive. And if they're more assertive and you got to say something, you can tell they probably don't like you. They don't want to talk to you. That's not true. They're a driver. If you can help them reach their goals, they want to talk to you. So each of these 4 personalities will do business with you for very different reasons. The amiable will do business because they know, like, and trust you. The analytic will do business because it's the right thing to do. It's the best decision to make. The expressive will do business with you because it's fun and it's enjoyable. And the driver will do business with you because it helps them reach their goals. So with me being a driver, you all probably thought I liked you. You probably did. You probably say, Mark likes us. Maybe not. He's a driver. He might just be, working with you. He might not like you at all. Drivers don't have to like people to work with them. If you can help them reach their goals, they'll work with you. And so each of the 4 personalities, they think in a very different way. Does that help, Katrina?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kevin, what you got?
So I was just wondering how to turn frustration into growth.
Nice. So there's 3 elements to frustration. It's how hard you work, how much you care, and your level of expectation. There's 3 parts to expectation. First part of expectation is how much you expect of yourself. Second is expectation of systems, and third is expectation of others. So frustration, most people look at frustration as being bad. I look at frustration as being good because it's growing. I'm going to grow. I am going to grow, and I love to grow. I love to learn. I love to grow. When I was 27 years old, my international speaking coach, Linda Brakel, I went through her 3-day boot camp. At the end of the first day, she pulled me aside and said, Mark, I have to be honest with you. I'm like, okay, good. I like, again, 27 years old. And I said, oh, I love it. Yeah. And she's like, you are the most god awful speaker I have ever, experienced in my life. What's my response to that? It's reflex, 27 years old. I'm like, that's awesome, Linda. I have no place to go but up. She just laughed and shook her head. And she's like, Mark, you're just a masochist. You love pain. I don't. What I do is I love growth. I love to grow. And growth is going to go ahead and require pain. It just does. When a baby's born, it's painful. When you're growing up and your bones and your body are changing, it's painful. It's just painful. So I don't like the pain. I just know that the pain comes with growth. And if I'm not in pain, I'm probably not growing. So, Kevin, what you do is you train your brain and say, I love growth. Growth requires frustration. If I don't want frustration, well, then don't work, don't care, and lower your expectations. You will feel better. Like, I don't know, I've never experienced it, but my understanding is when you get drunk or when you drink alcohol or you do drugs or you go ahead and energy drinks or you go ahead and smoke or anything, any of that stuff, you feel good. It's a dopamine hit, but it's in the moment. It's not lasting. There's not substantial. So what you do is you just go ahead. You're living in the moment and you're going to pay the price in the future. So it's not substance. Growth, though, it hurts. It's painful. But man, does it feel good because you grow. So what I do, Kevin, is I go ahead and say, Mark, you want to grow. You're frustrated. Yes. Okay. Then I say, then if I want to take the easy, lazy way out and feel good today, but I'm going to feel bad tomorrow, it's going to come back. Why not just rip the Band-Aid off, Mark, and do it today? Work harder, care more, increase your expectation first of myself, and then the systems that I work with, increase the expectation of the systems, and then increase the expectation of other people. Hopefully teach them how to increase their expectations. Like Patience the Silent Killer helps us to do that. Does that help, Kevin?
Yes.
Lloyd, anything you got, sir?
But it's not on anymore.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else?
So yesterday I did the personality assessment on an 83-year-old woman, and it was kind of cool.
Right.
She was like, she's 83, but she acts like she's 55, or she has just a ton of energy, and she really liked it. So yeah, I'll have to figure out how to streamline that into my sales process.
Right. And that's why the expressive is the natural to ask the question of all the people because it's fun. Not always, but it's fun. It's just a fun thing to do. And so the expressive, like Tom Coons, he just thinks it's the coolest thing to do in the world because it's fun. You get to know them, they laugh, you share some of the stuff. And so they're the ones that are most natural in being able to ask these questions. And it develops trust and rapport. And people are like stunned by what it is. And then you can help them in their marriage and with their kids and all other kinds of stuff for them. I mean, and they'll give you referrals. It's once you go ahead and see the power of it, and hopefully, I'm sure, Luke, I'm sure you didn't question, like, does Mark know what he's talking about? I'm sure that didn't happen. But if it did, from now on, everything you're like, Mark says, hey, do this. And you're like, huh, I'm just going to do it. And if it doesn't work out, I'm going to say, hey, Mark, I did this. It doesn't seem like it worked out. Can you help me out? Like, I'm going to trust the integrity of the system. And if it doesn't work, I'm not going to go ahead and say, well, I'm not going to trust that person anymore. I'm not going to trust the integrity of the system anymore. No, you're going to say, maybe I shouldn't trust, maybe I did it wrong, or maybe it doesn't work the first time you plant a seed. You don't immediately get a harvest. So the deep lesson to learn is like, wow, how much have I been how much have I been missing in life and business and sales because I'm not trusting the integrity of the system. Nice. Anybody else have anything else? Okay, a lot covered today. How do we internalize it? Hopefully, you're all doing an Elaine, and that is taking good notes. You're highlighting it, you're reviewing it, you're going through it. I don't know, work with Katrina on coming up with a quiz for this. So, anybody in Dreamscape that's going into sales in the future, this is like, wow, this was packed full. Anybody in sales, before they start selling, they should go through this one. Should they go through the first week? I don't know, probably. So you figure out a system, the most efficient system that you can have to go ahead and train everyone. So if you're listening to the rebroadcast of this, connect with the individual, check out your art buddies and your art mentors on this. The more that we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.